For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning or good evening, depending on when you're listening to this show. It's everywhere. And I am, of course, the dad, and you are?
And, of course, I am the son. And, of course, my name is James DeFreitas. And I always like to remind people, too, if you're just tuning in, that if you do have a gardening question, you can certainly get that question answered. And you can go to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb website. That's ASKMR, greenthumb.com. And you can ask your question with the Ask button. You can also do that right from your cell phone. So if you have pictures that you've taken of a potential plant question or a bug question or something that is of interest in your landscape and you want to know more about that, then head on over to askmrgreenthumb.com because knowledge is power.
And I agree 100%. In fact, we'll talk about that later. I got a request from New York City. Someone called me about where they were planting things down the middle of the thoroughfare, and this lady's in charge of it. Anyway, she sent me some pictures. She sent me some leaves. She sent me a bunch of stuff. We'll talk more about that later. Right now, I thought we'd go to my friend and yours, Michael Daly. And Michael Daly is a wealth of knowledge. He's a great Irish tenor, been here forever. If you've ever seen Daly Aluminum, and if you've lived in Tampa Bay for any length of time, I guarantee you've gone by his place. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about his talent. He is an Irish tenor, and he is great. We're going to play a little cut from this, and then we're going to interview Michael Daly.
Think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day, so lift arms to pray. May in summer way a nest of robins in her hair, bosom snow has left, who intermittently lives with rain, are met by fools like me, but only God can make trees.
And isn't that beautiful? And we have Michael Daly, who is the great tenor that did this song. And Michael, tell us a little bit about, well, your history, but also about the history of this song.
Well, my history is my father and mother came from County Cork, Ireland. And as a young boy, I listened to the Victrola and the great Irish tenor John McCormick. The very top, he was the highest paid entertainer in the 1930s in the world. Mm. And I listened to Victrola and learned father used to sing Irish music. When we moved on the farm, he would sing in the barn when we were milking the cows.
And that was in what, New York or New Jersey?
That was upstate New York in the Finger Lakes area of New York State.
Ah, that's a beautiful story. Now
And
Go ahead.
it's beautiful in the summertime, but look out for the winter.
The winter time. Now you're glad you're in Florida, and you've been in Florida, I think, since what, the 1950s? 1950?
1958, my wife and I came to Florida. That's true.
And his wife Audrey is a lovely lady as well.
And tell the
Oh,
folks
thank
too,
you.
and tell the folks too how you came here and what you had to do in order to come here.
Well, I'm War,
Okay.
and upon being discharged, I went to Cornell, where I got a Bachelor of Science degree and a Master of Education degree, and actually trained to be a vocational agriculture teacher.
Wow.
But then my wife and I talked about the weather up there. Job offered to me in Binghamton, New York. We decided to come to Florida. So we pulled a travel trailer behind our car and 1950 for Florida, and landed up in Land O'Lakes, Florida.
And I think
Land
you told me you sold some tires to get here, right?
Just sold some tires off the car to get enough money to come here.
I love that story.
And bought the RV with a loan from one of my aunts for about $1,900.
And that's the gumption of your generation and the generation before you that made America great. You were telling me now the song Trees, we're going to finish the ending when we go out of this segment too. We'll play some more of that. But it was a World War I soldier that wrote that as a poem, right?
That's correct. His name was Joyce Kilmer, and he was a famous poet prior to World War I, which started in 1914. The United States got involved in 1918, and he ended up in the Army and died. He liked to be in the front. He was forward observer and liked to be in the front watching things going on with his binoculars and reporting back. And they found him in a trench, standing up, looking with his binoculars. Unfortunately, he's dead. He was shot right between his eyes by a sniper.
Wow. Paid the ultimate price. Yeah.
He paid the ultimate price. So he wrote Trees, the song you just heard me sing, a poem. After his death, the poem and musical song, which is beautiful. I mean,
it's beautiful lyrics, and you delivered it well. Also with your singing voice, and I know this is on a little album you put together many years ago, and we have your permission, of course, to use it on the radio.
That's true.
And so I say that so the folks out there who
Right.
will go, hey, we're using stuff. Is it legal? Yes, it is.
Right. As we keep getting bothered by YouTube every week about.
100% legal.
Oh, good. Good. Well, that's a very good
During
thing.
During my singing days, I made 9 complete albums. MichaelDailyTenor.com, and my website will come up and do the songs of that website.
Oh, that's great. Can you tell us how to get to it again?
MichaelDailyTenor.com.
Okay.
And you can buy one of 3 ways. You can buy the complete album, which has an 8-page full-color booklet, and each album has 14 to 17 songs, and original music. And you can buy a digital download of the album, or you can buy individual songs.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, I mean, any way that people want to listen to it, you've got them covered.
Yes, I do.
Now, let's also go into the aluminum business. Now, you came down, and I think you told us where you were at in the park. Somebody had ordered something from Sears, and you had the chutzpah to say, I can do that. I can put that up for you, right?
Yeah, in that mobile home park on Lake Chapman and Land O'Lakes, we moved into, parked the travel trailer. My wife 24, she was 19. And I noticed the activity going around, and the mobile home park, people putting up awnings and carports and screening. And I went to work for a company as first as a door knocker, getting leads for other salesmen, and then started selling myself, putting up what I sold myself, and started a business called Daily Aluminum. I was located 19 years, where I built a 65,000 square foot factory on a corner of Curler Road, east corner of Curler Road in US 19. Daily Aluminum.
That's amazing. And that, and again, you really do represent the best of what can be, especially if you have a spirit that you want to work and do things that are great. You can do it if you put your mind to it. And and your music is just another emblematic of the person that you are. And it was so nice that you took a little bit of time out of your day to day so that we could listen.
Thank you for asking me, and it was a pleasure.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and end our first segment here with playing a little bit more music for Michael Daly.
A nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain. Intimately lives with rain. Like me, but only God can make free.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786, on the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, my son James DeFreitas. We are the dynamic duo that's here to help you with your plant questions, tree questions. I said I just had a question last week from somebody from New York City, and I was kind of surprised. She actually sent me some soil. I did ask for a little fee there so our technician could run a pH test.
Technician, meaning me.
And we ran the test, and it turned out that it was too acidic. Now, that's because they're using a lot of organic matter in their soil up there. Mm-hmm. It was down about 5.4. So that's just a little on the acid side. I recommended that they add about 65 pounds of dolomite per 1,000 square feet to help raise it. And that's about a 10 by 100
Now,
area.
what is dolomite?
Dolomite is a dolomitic limestone, and it has a little bit of magnesium in it, which is also helpful.
Limestone and magnesium.
It's together. It's usually spread as like a white powder. You usually put it on with a spreader, and you got to be careful with it. You should probably wear goggles or some eye
Goggles and a
protection.
mask.
Yeah, it's not so much toxicity. You just don't want to get it in your eyes. It could be a
All
problem.
right, so the main thing
Be
here,
careful.
be careful, wear a mask, wear gloves, maybe do it when it's not 100 degrees out, if you know,
Yeah.
because the one thing I will say is, and I've noticed this extensively over the summer, and when I forget, when we have a few nice days out of the year, which is rare, but when we were out treating trees, which we often do, we're out there. Usually, what we're doing is we'll get a call from someone, and they'll say, "Hey, come take a look at this tree for me. I think it's having a problem." And what we'll notice a lot of times is that the tree is either being eaten by borers, or maybe there's a nutritional deficiency with the tree. And one of the issues that we have is that you cannot just put granular on top of it and expect the trees to automatically.
Takes a long time.
It takes a long time for that to work. And so one of the ways that we bypass that is we try to use the internal system of the tree. We go into the cambium layer of the tree, and we actually put injectors into the tree. Now, there are some people out there that ascribe to the idea of pumping it under pressure. And I'm not a big believer in that, because I think that's an abnormal process for the tree to do that, to force fluids into a tree. And I think the tree, you're stressing it when you do that. And so that's my argument against that. And
I like a natural feed, almost like getting an IV. Let it,
Right.
You can speed it up a little, but you want to let it go in at a natural pace.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the things that I think you want to try to roll with nature as best you can. But back to what I was saying is that, even when I'm doing this, I like to put on gloves, but I like to put the gloves on right before I'm going to handle the chemical. And the reason that I mention this to you is that when you're wearing gloves outside and you're already sweating, your hands in particular is a great place for heat exchange. And the issue that you have is you're putting something on and it's refusing to allow you to have that natural heat exchange from your hands. If you put a thermal camera on your body, you'll notice that your hands light up bright red, as does your face. And that's for good reason. And that's where you've got a lot of heat build. And so one of the things, you don't want to put the gloves on until you absolutely have to. And then when I go from one tree to the next tree, I usually take my gloves back off, and only when I'm handling the chemical do I wear the gloves. And I recommend that to people as well. Be mindful that we are experiencing some severely hot temperatures, and you start to feel funny. You probably need to acknowledge that and stop. And that doesn't, from what I am experiencing, it doesn't seem to get better with age. So you need to be careful out there. Lots of water. If you've been outside for quite some time, then again, remember PSA, you need to rehydrate, And I remember I was telling a young gal I play tennis with, and she's a really nice lady, and I like her a lot, but she just laughed and was so tickled when I told her that I drink Pedialyte when we're out there in 90-degree heat playing tennis. And she goes, "Oh, that's for babies." And I said, "Well, no, it's not just for babies. It's actually for adults too, because the same process that happens when a child or a baby is sick happens to adults as well when we get dehydrated." So, and even though she's in the medical field, she was laughing and didn't understand why I was doing that.
Well, when she gets dehydrated sometime, it'll come home to her to roost.
Right. No, exactly. And sometimes you have to experience something before you fully understand why somebody does what they do. Matter of fact, the tennis player that was just, won the Wimbledon championships over there in England, he was drinking. Now, I don't necessarily know if you need to go to this extreme, but he was having some severe Alcaraz. He was having some extreme cramps in a previous tournament.
He lost in the French.
Right, at the French.
To Djokovic.
And so, again, we're talking about a world-class athlete here. I mean, somebody that this is their entire livelihood is made on their body performing at its highest high. So, again, what's true for them is true for us. It just may be on our own scale. We're not all, tremendous championship athletes. But
right.
But again, that shouldn't stop us from following some of the patterns that we see them do, especially if our needs become greater in terms of rehydrating and that sort of thing. So I guess my overall message is be careful in the heat. And the other thing I would say is, if you are experiencing a tree that isn't doing its best, one of the things that Stan and I do is we'll come out and we'll look at your tree. And if you want us to just give you an eyeball opinion without costing you anything, of course, you can always text Stan. You can text him directly, or you can go to the website, askmrgreenthumb.com, and you can ask the question directly and send photos. We recommend a couple of photos, especially so that we can kind of get up in and see what you're seeing. One photo sometimes doesn't always do it. And we're not able to, and plus time of day, was it dreary looking outside? I took some photos the other day of a tree that we're working on. Actually, it was an unusual tree. And we'll go ahead and see if you remember the name of the tree that we just looked at.
The Indian rosewood.
The Indian rosewood.
Or as you would say, Latin name, Dalbergia sisu.
Yeah, I would say that. Well, I might say it backwards just to try to confuse you. But yeah, we looked at the tree, and this is a very neat looking tree. If you haven't seen it, it has kind of a flaky bark appearance. Now, I personally thought the bark was flaking a little more than it should.
It was, because it had some activity in it.
Yeah, so even these trees are susceptible to getting borers, and no doubt the tree. And when I say borers, that's just a code for a larval stage of a beetle, and again. Try to remember these critters start as one thing and end as a flying thing when they're all done.
They go to the next tree nearby.
Correct. And that's how they can migrate from one tree to the next. Because humans don't have this life cycle development, we don't think of things constantly changing from one thing to another, but we have to remember that the things that attack us are, usually microscopic, whereas in a tree, they're often very large, like a beetle eating it. And when I say beetle, we automatically think of it being something that looks like it, already has legs and is moving, even though we forget in its youth that it's a larval stage.
Yeah, and it's the worm kind of larval stage that can cause as much trouble as anything else. But there are many different varieties and species of beetles that get into trees. Most of them are a problem. And you may laugh at your neighbor over there going, look at that, his tree's all being chewed upon.
Right.
Well, when they get through with his tree,
They're
your
coming
tree
for you,
is
buddy.
going eat at Mel's Diner next to you.
That's right. A big neon sign saying, eat my tree, please.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to go pay some bills, but don't change the dial. We'll be right back to talk more about beetles.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Green Thumb, can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live, but they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ASKMRgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And one thing I wanted to mention is if you can think of the vegetable, I've probably grown it. So if you're having a problem with vegetables, now right now cherry tomatoes can still survive. You may find kale, some of the greens. You may find sweet potatoes are probably doing fine when we're getting rain. But a lot of the veggies, it's just so hot.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
And it's in your ballywick.
Right.
Okay. I looked this up yesterday. Now, I texted you, you didn't respond. So now I'm going to ask you, since I didn't think you actually looked at my text. It's really your own fault that I'm asking it because you didn't actually look at it.
And the answer is watercress.
Okay, well, oh, so you did. So you did read it. Okay,
Yeah.
but anyway, so the thing I texted. So here's one of the nerdy things that I engage with my parents is I'll randomly text them something that I think is interesting, especially when it comes to something that's nutritious or something that's healthy or something
And
that's
I'm
positive.
into that too. We all are. We all should be on what's healthy for us when
Right.
we eat. We know that greasy fries aren't good for you, and we
Right.
know that the good, healthy vegetables are. But it's hard to get us, and even me,
Right.
and I've grown every vegetable to know to eat fruit and veggies more. And that's what we all need to do.
We do.
And
we
yet we
need-
go, God, that juicy hamburger looks awful good.
Well, and again, I mean, we have fast food restaurants in every corner, and it's researchers came together and they were studying the nutrient density. What foods have the most nutrient density, and so they came up with a 100-point scale, and 100, of course, being the highest nutrient density. And so with a total of 100 points. So the winner of the rankings of the healthiest food even beats Chinese cabbage. Chinese cabbage, I don't know that I've ever had Chinese cabbage or what the difference is between that and regular cabbage.
It looks like regular cabbage kind of, but it's more
does
stippled,
it
if you will.
taste even worse than regular cabbage?
Well, I think regular cabbage is great. If you have a
Okay.
coleslaw with a little bit of carrot in there, a little mayonnaise, a little pepper,
Lots of mayonnaise.
coleslaw can be just super.
Yeah, lots and lots of mayonnaise.
Now, I made a couple of coleslaws earlier this year.
Right, and so the Chinese cabbage, it scored 92 points on their 100-point scale. And then the next one that was on the list was Swiss chard, which was 89.27 points. I think your neighbor there, John Mason, was growing that in his backyard at one point. I didn't steal any because it didn't look like it would taste very good. Again, this is my issue with most of these wonderfully nutrient-dense foods is that most of the time it's hard to, as Stan pointed out, it's hard to stack them up against hamburgers and other things that are just instantly taste good. But we're talking about, nutrient density. Another one was beetroot and also spinach. So again, probably try to add some Chinese cabbage, Swiss chard, beetroot, and spinach. Put that more in your diet. And then watercress was another choice that people could make in terms of having, engaging in the most nutrient dense food. And again, Stan and I are always about, picking the healthiest choices that you can pick because we would like to see people try to, I know we have a lot of elderly people in Florida, but our thoughts are, why couldn't everyone live to be 100? And I think that it's possible. I just think you have to start making better choices earlier in life. And that's what we're all about is, making healthy choices. In addition to, like we did in the last segment, or the segment prior was, is having a guy on talking about trees, talking about embodying the essence of importance of trees, essentially, by singing that song that he wrote, or I should say he sang, that somebody else wrote. And so one of the things that, that's what we do. And one of the things I would also mention, too, is that, the other component of what I do, of course, is real estate. And, of course, people always make the argument, all right, how does real estate and gardening really fit? And I always tell people the same thing. Well, you don't really care about what you're gardening until you own a piece of real estate. And I think that was certainly the case for me. I didn't really care until I bought my first condo somewhere, and then I started caring because then I had a choice of what I wanted to put in my landscape. So it's all about giving that choice. When I was an apartment dweller, I didn't really care too much because the landscaping and everything was taken place by the apartment people that owned the place, and so you didn't really have a say in it. But the moment you do get a say in it, then all of a sudden you want to make choices that you think would beautify your property. And so, that brings me to the real estate component of this show. And one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit today is South Florida real estate. And one of the things that I was reading this article, and it was out of West Palm Beach, and it's a fairly recent article, end of July. And so, it was talking about the recent interest rate hike. And, in it wasn't a great interest rate hike. It was only like a quarter of a point. So it wasn't like a game changer, but even a quarter of a point has an effect. And that's kind of what this person that wrote this article is getting at, because the person that wrote his name is Tori Dunnan. And, it does change things. And the reason that it changes things is, let's say, and this is the example he gives, is let's say you're approved, prior to the interest rate change. Let's say you're approved up to $500,000 to buy your next dream home from Dream It Real Estate. Okay, he didn't say that part. I said that part. And then now the bank may come back to you and say, hey, the interest rate's changed. So really all you can afford now is $450,000. And so now if you were looking at properties that were in the 470s or 480s or 490s, well, now you can't really do it anymore. And that's a problem, because now you've been priced out of the market based on an interest rate hike. So one of the things I was mentioning while you took a quick little break there is the effects. This person wrote an article here, and we're talking about the effects of an interest rate hike, and even a small one. And he's making the statement that, let's say you were approved up to $500,000 to buy your next dream home from Dream It Real Estate. Well, now the bank could come back to you and say, well, that was last month. Now this month we're only going to offer you $450 because of the rate change, and we don't think this is what we now think you can afford.
So it's pricing people out of the market.
So it's going to price you out of the market. Now, if you're from New York or New Jersey or Connecticut or any of those states where everything's already expensive, and you sold off your place up there and you're a cash buyer, well, you probably don't really care. And we have a lot of people in Pinellas County in particular, and in Hillsborough as well, that are buying a lot of things cash. So, again, if I'm looking at two offers and they're identical in every way, and I see one's cash, guess which one is going to get priority placement?
Cash is king.
Cash is king. Now, the question that you have, though, is what's the unintended effect of having all of these out-of-state buyers drive up real estate prices? Well, what happens is you'll have two people that are fully employed, been working for 20 years, and still can't afford to buy real estate, even though they were born and raised in Florida. So you're talking about Florida crackers who were born here, and they can't buy real estate here because they have been priced out because of northern money. Now, again, supply and demand. I understand the economics of the situation. Now, here's where I tend to go a little socialist, because I know everybody assumes if you're one thing, you're all of that one thing, and never ever could potentially look the other way. Well, I tend to go a little socialist here. It's already well established in our brains, okay, that if you are born and raised or have residency in Florida, that you will get a preferential price when you go to college. And almost every Republican I know thinks that's fine. But when I suggest, hey, if you were born and raised in Florida, why couldn't you get a preferential mortgage rate that makes you have some kind of competitive edge with out-of-state money? People look at me like I have three heads and that I have a red shirt on and my name's Putin. So I guess what I'm saying is it would be kind of nice, and it is a shame that if you're born and raised here, you can't afford to buy real estate here and that you're going to be a renter forever. And I find that troubling. But I do understand the concept of supply and demand and the effects that has on things. Right now, we still have very low supply, okay? So we have very few houses. In my neighborhood alone, there hasn't been a sale in 9 months in my neighborhood.
Wow.
So now that doesn't mean that there isn't some people on the sidelines that wouldn't be willing to sell. It's just they're not. The other issue that we have to think about too is institutional buyers. Do you want? Let's say you own 5 townhouses. It's one thing if you own 5 townhouses and you're a very small operator. But if I came back to you and I said I own 500 townhomes and condos and houses, at what point does that entity start to drive up prices in your neighborhood in a way that's unhealthy for first-time home buyers to ever crack into the market?
Good point. Good questions. And those are questions that should be asked. And I commend you for it because a lot of folks don't ask them.
Right. And most agents, here's what they'll tell you. How much, you've got it, it's sold. And that's about as deep as, and I hate to say that, but that's about as deep as it goes. But I'm asking for people to think about the long-term consequences of what happens when the supply is bought up by corporations.
I just have a neighbor whose house is going up for sale. And personally, if I think somebody should call me to help to buy that property,
Sure,
because they're selling it for $600,000. I think it's worth
Is it
around,
officially listed?
Not yet. I don't think officially, but it's going to be.
Well, we probably don't want to talk about it too much.
Well, we can talk about. You could call me now to get ready for it.
For an anticipated sale.
But it's not my listing.
Right.
So I think I can mention that. But
Yeah.
I think the property should be going for around $700,000. So I think someone could listen to me, buy the house, and make $100,000 potentially.
You may be a bit biased since you're the next door neighbor to that person.
Well, and you get to live near me, and that's got to be worth $100,000 in itself.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, especially with how tidy and well kept everything is around your house.
I have good intentions. My avocados are good.
Yes, your avocados are good.
My bananas are good. My
Your broken down boat, not so good.
Yeah, well, it shows it's hard to make money in media these days.
Well, isn't that the truth? But yeah, so anyways, my main point is that yes, even a quarter of a point increase in a mortgage rate does have a significant impact over the overall life of your loan. And, so that's something that you need to consider in the real estate space.
Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we are here to answer your questions, be it, real estate, plants, trees, shrubs, veggies. You name the veggie, I probably have grown it. I can tell you right now, someone asked me yesterday, can I grow all these things right now? I said, well, it's awfully hot. I'd probably wait. Next best time's probably going to be October. I know, because we're still into the heat, and it doesn't go away just because we start to slip into, end of August and September. It's still warm.
Now, what if somebody wanted to think outside of the box and they wanted to grow something in controlled conditions? Could that still be done?
Yeah, if you're willing to put up some shade cloth and things like that to kind of, mitigate the heat to a degree.
Well, what if, let me ask you something, just a wild thought. Let's say there was a portion of my garage I wasn't using. Now, that never happens because people pack their garages full of stuff. They leave their $60,000 cars out front to bake in the heat while they protect their $200 bicycles. But anyways, put that aside. Let's say I had this space in my garage that I wanted to maybe grow something hydroponically, and I was willing to bring in light and all this other stuff.
You could do it.
You could do it.
You could, and a lot of people do. As you were mentioning the watercress earlier as being one of the most dense in nutrients. Make sure it's clean water. Now, watercress likes to grow in a wet area.
Now, what do you mean by clean water?
Well, you'd want it. I probably wouldn't want it in necessarily a ditch bank. It probably could grow there. Might be happy.
What about if I use reclaimed water?
Possibly, but I want to really wash it well before you use it if you're going to use it.
But wouldn't it just be inside the...
No, it's not.
Because that's what some people have said.
Well,
it's just, if you water it with that, it's totally... Now you've messed it up entirely.
Question for you is, put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
What family is the watercress in?
Is it in the same family as potato?
No, it's in the same family, which would...
Beet?
No, it's going to be in the same cabbage.
Cabbage.
And that whole cucurbit group, or it's Brassica actually, the Brassica group, which is broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all the most dense collard greens, your Swiss chard.
So anything in that group that tastes bad is really good for you.
Well,
so here's what I would say. If it tastes terrible, you should eat more of it. Is that kind of a fair statement?
No, because you can make things taste better.
Yes, but the more you make it taste better, the less healthy it is for you.
Well,
correct?
That's a fine line. I must say you can change your taste buds to a degree. You can get used to eating stuff and go, okay. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people, if you just go out and eat kale out of your backyard, more than likely you're going to go,
Yeah, I can tell you right now. Let me tell you about a terrible experience that recently happened to me. I went through, and I hate giving them a free plug because they don't need it, but I went through Chick-fil-A on a non-Sunday, and I got 2 of their Kale Crunch salads.
Right.
And these young individuals, again, it's not like they're giving stuff away there. They've got 16 lines to go through, and then it diverges into one lane, and then you got some kid with pimples on their face handing you your crap that they probably haven't even looked at.
Or good stuff, as you meant to say.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So they're handing you your stuff, and again, I'm ordering kale salads.
Yeah, which is healthy.
These dirty rats didn't take the time to properly dress the kale salads. There's some kind of stuff that they put on them to make it taste edible. And when I got home, I basically was eating what tasted to me like, I don't know, rice cakes and styrofoam. And I sat there and I go, man, this tastes terrible. I mean, this is just, I wouldn't feed this to anybody,
Well, that's where you've got to improve it with a little bit of maybe olive oil and maybe some pepper and maybe some kind of little dressing.
Yeah, but we had a guy on named Alan, and he said, olive oil, bad, don't do it.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I have with health, enthusiasts.
Nuts, health nuts.
Health people who will go, this is bad and this is good. And maybe the old Greek philosophy of moderation in all things. People will tell you grapes are bad because they're full of sugar. And yet grapes have
I've never seen anybody get fat eating grapes, though.
No, there are a lot of sugar in them, but...
Yeah, but it's brown sugar.
It's if you eat the skin and everything, it's all the extra stuff that
you add to it.
That add to it. And if you eat the skin, it slows down the metabolism of it being absorbed.
Sure.
And so it's not just like drinking grape juice.
Right.
And I think that's a big... Oranges. If you're eating all of the pulp and everything... That's different than drinking down a glass of orange juice, which is basically a lot of sugar.
Right.
A lot of fructose.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's mentioned quite a lot. I think it was in that book by Dr. Barry Sears. He talks about the idea of not removing the fiber that binds the sugar inside of fruits. And then when you do that, you're pretty much making that fruit a lot less healthy for you.
A bunch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, leaving fiber is important. It tends to slow down things going through your whole digestive tract, and it will be healthier for you. Now, we're not doing necessarily a health show, But
Well, gardening certainly can be healthy.
it is healthy. It keeps you exercising out there. That's good. You can
Right.
do it at any age.
Right.
Doesn't matter your age, your race, your color, your religion.
doesn't-
Everybody can do it.
Everybody gardens.
And
yeah.
everybody should be doing it.
Right. But probably 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. I'd say, try to avoid the heat of the day. I see there is one old guy that I see who goes around and again, at the park I live next to, it's got a track around it where one circuit's 1 mile. This guy goes out there. He must be 70 years plus of age. And he goes out there at 12:30 p.m. to do his run. And I keep thinking, and again, I know CPR, and I hope to God I never have to help this guy, because I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, man, you could go and do this early morning or late at night, and it would be so much easier on you than doing it during the heat of the day. He's got his sweatpants on. He's going at half a mile an hour, still pretending to jog, which is I mean, to me, I could fast walk quicker than he jogs, but I love that he's doing it just at the wrong time.
Sure. Well, maybe it's just the one that fits into his time. Hopefully he drinks enough water and goes at a pace that he can, continue.
Right, exactly. And if you get the kale salad, like I said, at Chick-fil-A, you make sure they dress that thing. Otherwise, it's an inedible salad. I mean, I'm sitting there and I ate it anyway. But I can tell you the face I was making was not happy. I was giving the face of somebody who just slapped me every 30 seconds every time I was munching on said kale crunch salad.
Well, and in general, I love their place, and I buy a lot of food there. But I have found one time they didn't put the lid on the soup right.
Right, and you
And
made a
it
mess,
went right
didn't it?
through the thing. And I went back through, and I came in with my soup dripping out of my bag through the store. And they said, you could do that through your car. I said, no,
I wanted
to
you to
share
I wanted you
this
to have this
experience with you because I'm hacked off.
Right. And there is a bit of a high cost to the low price that they pay these teenagers working there. And some of that comes with I don't know or I don't care, and maybe a combination of both. And so, I get the cheap labor aspect. However, that's not a replacement for a training issue that I see taking place. And it's not just Chick-fil-A. A lot of places do this as well, where you're abusing the youth's capability of earning potential, but that's what they're supposed to do. It's not supposed to be a career. And by the way, it's not meant to be a career in the fast food industry. It's not.
Speaking of bad restaurants, I was out to McDonald's on the beaches. Now I know,
And we do like some McDonald's.
and I do
by
like
the
some
way.
McDonald's, but I went to the McDonald's out on the beach, St. Pete Beach area, and it was absolutely. I told the manager this may be the worst run one I've ever seen, and they didn't seem to care.
Maybe you caught them on
care
a
for that.
bad day.
Well, I watched. I was only getting an apple pie because they bake them, and that's fairly healthy.
Well,
and,
it's heart healthy.
and I actually had to.
I get two.
I had to go in to use the facilities, and I thought, while I'm here, I'll do this. But I waited 20 minutes for this apple pie, which no one told me I was going to have to wait from. I was joking with them. I said, "Are you guys cutting up the apples and rolling out the dough?" And somebody was getting their Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and 3 sandwiches came out, all of them, and the guys all complained and sent them back because there was globs of their tartar sauce all over the top of the bun.
They were getting their Chick-fil-A sandwiches
No, it wasn't
at
Chick-fil-A.
McDonald's?
McDonald's sandwich. It was the Chick-fil-A, not Chick-fil-A, I'm sorry, the McDonald's, the fish fillet.
Fish fillet. There
And
we go.
they had put the tartar sauce like they were covering the top of the bun with it.
Uh-huh.
Now, I could see it happen once. Maybe the kids just, it happens. I'm not really paying attention.
It's the high cost of the low price.
But 3 times in a row, 3 of those sandwiches came back while I'm watching it. And the one guy said, "Look, I used to run a kitchen. I know how," he says, "you can get people in here that can do a decent job." He said, "These people are just trying not to do a good job." So the one guy was real friendly. He high-fived me, and I said, "I'd keep that guy." The rest of them, I'd probably fire 90%.
Another reminder then not to eat less at fast food
Yes.
restaurants, and I think that you'll be better. Eat the kale, that's what you really want, or the watercress that we've talked about. And of course, stay tuned for the wonderful Dr. Bill Handelman. He comes on right after us.
Make sure you enjoy your weekend, and as Teddy used to say, live it up.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.